Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning to the viewing audience in Jamaica, in the diaspora, wherever you're from. Welcome. You are tuned in to the JCSA High Schools Debate Competition 2025. This is day 3, the final day, the most packed day. Today we will find out who will be the final 6 teams who will be joining our other teams so far in round 2 of this, the third staging of the JCSA High School Debate Competition. I am Ravan Thomas Matthews from the Jamaican Association for Debating and Empowerment, and it is an absolute privilege to be with you today to lead you out in today's activities. I want to, as always, big up the Jamaica Civil Service Association for bringing this competition back into the sphere, into the realm of the debate circuit. It is greatly appreciated, and your care and ownership and stewardship of debating and the great outcomes that it brings is clearly on display. And I say that because we've had some wonderful matches so far. So far, we have seen a total of 7 teams advancing to round 2. Charlemont High School, Campion College, Clarendon College. We also saw individuals from yesterday doing spectacularly as well. And so we want to kickstart this day 3 with 2 teams. In proposition, we have the Mannings School. In opposition, we have St. George's College. Manning School, of course, were our second place winners from the competition last year. I wonder, what is the goal? Is it second place or is it to go for the championship? Either way, St. George's College, new entrance to the competition, has a thing or two to say about that, and they'll be looking to unseat our second place champions in this match. The motion before us reads, this House would require public sector workers to rotate across ministries and departments during their careers. Once more, this House would require public sector workers to rotate across ministries and departments during their careers. Joining me on my panel are 2 talented adjudicators. We have Mr. DeCardiego Nelson and Mr. Joshua Atkins. And at this point in time, we want to hear from our judges. And we invite Mr. DeCardiego Nelson to give some greetings.
Thank you very much, Ravon. I'm very happy to be here this morning. Looking forward to the exciting debates and dialogue that we'll have. Talking about something that is of vital significance in our national discourse, ministries, the roles that they play, and even more so the roles that individuals within these spheres play. So I'm very much looking forward to the arguments that you have for this motion as well as the arguments that you have against the motion. A very rich discussion, I'm sure, will be had.
Thank you very much, DeCardiego Nelson. Absolutely agreed. And of course, not to be outdone, Mr. Joshua Atkins.
Good morning, everyone. I'm looking forward to an exciting contention of ideas today. I know that the teams would have fiercely contested before during the previous matches, and I look forward to that sort of continuation of what was previously done by the teams before. Thank you.
Indeed, and thank you, Mr. Joshua Atkins. Teams, you are already aware of the rules, but for the sake of your memory, And for our viewing audience, I will repeat them nonetheless. So, first speakers, you will have 7 minutes to present your case. Second speakers, you will have 6 minutes. And finally, reply speakers, you will have 5 minutes to convince the judges why your team has won the debate. The first minute and the last minute of each speech is what we call protected time, which means that you're not allowed to accept or ask any points of information once you're in the first minute of your speech and once you're in the last minute of your speech. The reply speaker, as always, absolutely no points of information will be accepted in your speech. You have an unrestricted 5 minutes to prove to us why your team has won the debate. Now, in between the first speakers and second speakers, and the second speakers and third speakers, we have a really interesting part of this debate that we like to call the cross-examination. Yes, imagine you're on the jury stand. Similarly, just like if you're on the jury stand, we will have team opposition posing 3 questions to team proposition and vice versa. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'll explain that in a little bit more detail when we get down to it. So, teams, your time signals will be placed in the chat, and Mr. Joshua Atkins will serve as chair wing judge and of course for timekeeper. All right. So with that said, let us get this debate on the road. Match number 8 of the JCSA High School Debate Competition 2025 starts now. We invite the first speaker from the team in proposition, Manning School, to present the case. That speaker being Elmarie Noble. Elmarie Noble. The floor is yours, Elmarie.
All right. Mr. Speaker, keeping public servants in one ministry for decades is not tradition, it's stagnation. The opposition wants comfort, we want progress. Distinguished adjudicators, my esteemed teammates, and my fellow opponents, a pleasant morning. Mr. Speaker, the motion states this House would require public sector workers to rotate across ministries or departments during their careers. We, the proposition, stand strongly in support of the motion that public sector workers would be required to rotate across departments during their careers. But before we tackle the core issue, let me dive into a few key terms for a better comprehension. Public sector workers are government employees, for example, accountants, project managers, policy officers, etc., who deliver services and implement policies across ministries, which are departments managing specific areas like health, education, and finance. They form the backbone of Jamaica's civil service. In this debate, require means to make rotation mandatory as an established policy which would ensure all public sector workers move across ministries during their careers in a structured, fair, and carefully planned way, not through harsh or disruptive transfers. Rotation means public servants would systematically move between ministries or departments every 4 to 6 years, gaining experience across government. This applies to administrative and transferable roles, not specialized frontline professionals. The current status quo in Jamaica is that public sector workers often stay in one ministry for most of their careers, which limits innovation, reduces coordination between departments, and weakens accountability. Rotation would expose employees to multiple departments, fostering versatility, collaboration, better policy coherence, and stronger national crisis response. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, allow me to consolidate on my arguments. As the Prime Minister, my substantive are to highlight the necessity of rotating public servants to reduce corruption, bring fresh minds to the plateau, to foster growth, and to strengthen resilience and crisis readiness. My well-profound second speaker will further elaborate on how this necessity and requirement would grow and build a more stable and efficient Jamaican workforce. Additionally, my third speaker will summarize our case and provide reasons as to why the opposition stance is flawed, unrealistic, and very much unreasonable. Mr. Speaker, the current system where public servants remain in one ministry for decades is not just outdated, it is dangerous. It breeds comfort, familiarity, and most tragically, corruption. Over time, close relationships turn into unchecked influence and accountability fades into complacency. According to Transparency International's 2024 Corruption Perception Index, Jamaica scored 44 out of 100, a clear signal that corruption continues to poison the heart of our governance. Reports from the Integrity Commission and Auditor General echo the same story. Repeated procurement breaches, poor financial management, and millions of taxpayers' dollars lost to inefficiency and misuse. Mr. Speaker, this cannot continue. Rotation is not merely an option, it is a national safeguard. By rotating public servants every 4 to 6 years, we disrupt favoritism, strengthen oversight, and promote fairness. With transparent transfers, no one stays long enough for corruption to take root. The result, Mr. Speaker, is a cleaner, more trustworthy government, one that serves the people, not personal interests. Rotation is a necessity in Jamaica's path to restore integrity and public confidence. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the rotation of public servants is a necessity if Jamaica is to rise to the level of progress our people deserve. Our public sector, once a proud engine of national development, is now burdened by stagnation and resistance to change. For years, workers have remained locked within the same ministries, their creativity dulled and their potential untapped. The data is clear. Between 2018 and 2022, Jamaica's productivity declined by 0.8%, and our country sits at 76 on the Global Innovation Index. These are not just numbers, Mr. Speaker. They are signs of a system in desperate need of renewal. When the National Housing Trust embraced staff movement, the results spoke volumes. Greater efficiency, better service, and a renewed spirit of innovation. This is proof that when minds grow, progress follows. Now, the opposition may claim that rotation disrupts continuity, but what truly disrupts our nation's progress is complacency. With well-planned 4 to 6 years rotations, training, and knowledge transfer, we can preserve expertise while reigniting the flame of innovation. Mr. Speaker, rotation is not a burden. It is the breath of fresh air our civil service needs to propel Jamaica into a new era of growth, excellence, and national pride. Moreover, rotating public servants across ministries is essential for strengthening Jamaica's institutional resilience and ensuring effective crisis readiness. Given that Jamaica experiences frequent national disasters, including hurricanes, floods, and droughts, multiple ministries are often strained simultaneously. For instance, Hurricane Ivan in 2004 caused over $1.4 billion in damages, impacting health, infrastructure, and economic sectors. However, Mr. Speaker, ministries frequently operate in silos, meaning little to no communication from other departments, which delays coordinated responses and reduces the efficiency of emergency management. Therefore, it is necessary to implement a structured rotation system so that public servants gain cross-sectorial knowledge, understand interministerial workflows, and can quickly fill critical gaps when crises arise. As a result, Jamaica can develop a more agile, versatile
Point of
civil
information.
service not accepted, capable of maintaining continuity of services during emergencies, ultimately strengthening national stability and fulfilling Vision 2030 objective of a resilient and adaptive public sector. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion,
Speaker, your time has elapsed.
Time. Thank you very much. That was the first speaker from the Manning School, Elmuri Noble. We now invite the first speaker from Team St. George's to present the case and open it for that side of the house. We're welcoming, of course, Mr. Javon Gentles.
I would like to actually confirm that you guys can hear me clearly before I start.
Loud and clear, Javon.
Okay, great. So let me know when I can start, please.
Ready when you are.
Okay, I'll be starting in 3, 2, 1. Mr. Speaker, esteemed adjudicators, members and proponents of Manny's High School, good morning to you all. I am Javan Gentles, first speaker up for the opposition bench, and we firmly oppose the motion that states this House would require public sector workers to rotate across ministries during their careers. My adjudicators, governance is not a game of musical chairs, yet this motion would certainly turn our ministries into one, a constant shuffle that is, where rules change before they are understood and progress is left in mid-step. Let me be very clear, Mr. Speaker. We are not against rotation itself. When done voluntarily, strategically, and with purpose, it can strengthen skills and broaden experience. What we oppose is the idea of making it mandatory, as suggested by the phrase would require, stripping workers of choice and stability and replacing competence with compulsion. Mr. Speaker, while we accept the proposition definition on the terms of public sector workers, however, we would like to reiterate our own definition of the term required, as the proposition stations the moot in a way that is not acceptable. The term would require clearly implies a mandatory action, not a voluntary or optional one. Therefore, according to the Merriam-Webster, would use means to use, express a plan or intention indicating a future action that is expected or required. And to require means to compel or enforce, to demand as necessary or essential. Today, as the first speaker of the opposition bench, I will dismantle the arguments presented by my respected counterpart, while proving that mandatory rotation undermines governance, weakens communities, and harms labor rights, ultimately reducing public sector effectiveness. My second speaker will expand on my case, and my third speaker will deliver a concise summary as a finishing blow in demonstrating why this motion cannot and should not stand. Mr. Speaker, the idea that mandatory rotation improves fairness and efficiency, as stated by my respected counterpart, is misleading. Mandatory rotation ignores merit and qualifications, the very foundation of an effective public service. In countries like Jamaica, public sector positions are earned through skill, experience, and competence. If workers are moved simply because of a role and not because of ability, they may end up in roles they are not prepared for, disrupting the workflow and lowering overall efficiency. Take Singapore as an example, ladies and gentlemen, a model of public service excellence as highlighted by the World Bank 2020 report. Their public sector employees are allowed to remain in positions long enough to develop deep expertise. Any movement to other roles is voluntary and strategic, not mandated. This approach ensures that competence and continuity are preserved, driving efficiency and strengthening governance. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, unlike what the proposition suggested, mandatory rotation undermines performance and damages morale. When staff are placed in key positions without the necessary skills, citizens lose confidence in government decisions. Rather than promoting fairness, forced rotation compromises it, as roles are no longer assigned based on merit, but on arbitrary rules. Mr. Speaker, I must admit, I nearly chuckled at the suggestion by the respected proponent that simply rotating public servants could somehow prevent corruption and magically build teamwork. Ladies and gentlemen, frequent transfers can actually make corruption easier because politicians can move their loyal supporters into powerful positions whenever they wish. In Guyana, for example, the 1990s witnessed the frequent reassignment of public servants based on political loyalty rather than merit. This practice facilitated the placement of allies in key positions, undermining institutional stability and fostering an environment ripe for corruption. The absence of continuity in staff roles disrupted the development of cohesive teams and eroded public trust in governmental institutions. Therefore, rather than fostering integrity, mandatory rotation can inadvertently entrench corruption and destabilize essential public institutions. Mr. Speaker, there is no reason to force anyone across ministries. What we on the opposition bench suggest is strengthening our annual appraisal systems. By by improving performance evaluations as outlined by the Staff Orders of Public Service 2004, Section 13. Promotions and transfers are based on objective performance data, not political favor. This system, we the opposition proposes, reduces corruption because misconduct is easier to detect and accountability is built into every assessment. Combined with audits, digital monitoring, and oversight by bodies like Jamaica's Integrity Commission, it ensures efficiency, integrity, and transparency without destabilizing ministries through mandatory rotation. Mr. Speaker, as if political interference weren't enough, this policy also breaks the very thing good governance depends on, trust, because apparently in the proposition's version of public service, the public is the last to be served. Forced rotation also break the bonds between public servants and the people they serve. Take parish officers in rural Jamaica. They know their communities. They understand local issues and build trust through years of consistent service. According to the OECD report entitled An Updated Framework on the Drivers of Trust in Public Institutions 2021, governments with stable local relationships are significantly more trusted and responsive. Yet, when these officers are moved too often, say from the traffic management division to the public health division, the hard-earned trust disappears. This constant reshuffling leaves citizens feeling like the system no longer knows or cares about them. They must repeatedly explain the same problems to new officers who lack local context, whether it's poor road conditions, water shortages, or family welfare cases. Over time, you can see how this creates frustration and skepticism towards the government institutions. As such, to my next point, Mr. Speaker, the toll it takes on these officers and other public sector workers. These officers are mandated into these positions, not consulted, and are expected to adapt swiftly to unfamiliar departments, new communities, and different policy goals. This forced dislocation causes emotional fatigue, loss of motivation, and decline in performance as officers and other public sector workers struggle to serve effectively in environments where they have no roots or rapport. And as for the relationship between the community, ladies and gentlemen, let's be so very honest. When trust breaks, service breaks. And when the service breaks, the nation will definitely stumble. We cannot replace loyalty with rotation because no government stands without the faith of its people. Mr. Speaker, the proposition may argue that close connections to the community breed corruption, but to assume that familiarity automatically leads to wrongdoing is misleading. In reality, officers who know their communities are more accountable. Residents will more likely notice misstep, report abuses, and demand transparency. Mr. Speaker, mandatory rotation disrespects workers' rights to stability and career growth. Under Jamaican Staff Order of the Public Service 2004, Section 4.6, any transfer of a public sector service officer must be authorized by an appropriate authority, and officers may appeal to the Public Service Commission if they object to a transfer. Mr. Speaker, esteemed adjudicators, members of the audience, mandatory rotation forces change for the sake of a rule, not because of the sake of progress. It disrupts stability, weakens trust, and undermines the very foundation of effective governance. Today, this House has the chance to stand for competence, continuity, and the people we serve. I urge you to reject this motion and protect the integrity of our public service. The opposition pause for now. I thank you.
And thank you very much, Javan, for those submissions. I must say the Integrity Commission has been getting a lot of shout out in this competition. I think this is the third model I've seen in this competition so far that has imposed some greater burden or role on the Integrity Commission. Very interesting. All right, thank you very much, first speakers. At this point in time, we're going to be moving into that period of cross-examination. So, how is this going to work? Well, team opposition is going to pose 3 questions to team proposition. So, St. George's will ask a question, and then Mannings will respond to that question. Then St. George's will ask another question, and Mannings will respond to that question. Then St. George's will ask their third and final question, to which Manning School will provide their third and final answer. And then we'll flip the arrangement and invite Manning School to ask questions of St. George's similarly. Some key pieces of information to note: that each question can last no more than 10 seconds, and only one individual can ask a question at any given point in time from a team. Each answer can last up to 45 seconds, and the entire team can chip in to provide that answer, provided that it fits within the 45-second period. Right, so those are the rules of engagement for our cross-examination period. With that said, we now invite the first question from Team St. George's.
Okay, good morning. What happens to specialized roles like engineers, nurses, or auditors who can't simply fit in anywhere?
Would you repeat?
I said, what happens to specialized roles like engineers, nurses, or auditors who can't simply fit in anywhere?
The policy targets administrative and transferable roles, not specialized professionals. Experts stay in their lanes, administrators rotate to buildings, flexibility, and to rotate to build flexibility and coordination. So we're not saying that we're going to be rotating doctors and engineers and persons who are vital and essential to certain sectors. We're going to be rotating probably even the smaller man, probably even the managers and persons that overlook them. Obviously, we cannot rotate the direct engineers and direct doctors because they're not specialized. They're not specializing. If you rotate a heart surgeon to brain, we cannot do that. That does not make any sense to simply rotate.
That's why we said administrative workers and transferable workers.
Good morning, everyone. How would you find efficiency if, as soon as someone gets used to the rules and regulations of their job, they have to change and relocate to a new administrative position that requires different expertise?
Repeat that, you're breaking up a bit.
How would you define and say that it would be efficient for someone to move from one administrative position before they can learn and properly do what they need to get done in that position?
As we said, it would be over a span of 4 to 6 years. There would be training programs initiated for these various career professionals to better adapt to the future. Yes, to better adapt to the rotation into their new roles. So it wouldn't be, for example, this week you're at this particular position and next week you're in the next position. No, it would be over a span of 4 to 6 years, which you can have the training programs in order to better substantiate the information that you need for the future roles.
Okay, good morning, everyone. In continuation of the question that was asked, or another question rather, wouldn't you say that this would be counterproductive because the time that it would take for them to train for these other roles and these other positions, in the time that the productivity in the public sector and the government would then decrease over time?
Repeat that.
Wouldn't you say that it's counterproductive, right? Because the time that's going to take for you to instill these training sessions for the people to actually know their roles, they're going to be spending more time trying to understand what their role is than actually completing the role, hence reducing the efficiency in the public sector.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So it would, when you look at the benefits of rotation compared to the possible downsides, you realize that it is far more beneficial to prevent certain things from happening, like corruption. And it would be more beneficial to promote stronger mental fortitude by way of allowing the public sector workers to experience different sectors. We give them time to rotate, time to build better systems, and also improve their own individual efficiency by way of them being able to sort of transfer themselves through these roles.
And it would also spread expertise. You're working in one sector and you're being transferred, and again, around 4 to 6 years could be even more to another sector. It can transfer expertise, allowing growth in the various departments.
All
Thank you,
right.
Speaker.
Thank you very much, Joshua. And that is time. Thank you for that first period of cross-examination, or at least that first half of the first period. At this point in time, we're now going to invite Manning School to pose questions to the St. George's College. All right, and we'll start when you're ready, Teams Manning School.
Right. If ministries continue operating in silos, how do you propose Jamaica improves innovation and adapts to modern public sector challenges?
Do you mind repeating the question, please?
If ministries continue operating in silos, how do you propose Jamaica improves innovation and adapts to modern public sector challenges?
Okay, so good morning again, everyone. To answer your question, innovation and becoming a more modern society does not come from blindly moving persons about and hoping for the best. That is just throwing something up in the air and praying that it sticks. A more reasonable solution would be to provide better training for the persons in their position and allow persons to do the best that they can up until they want to leave that position, so that efficiency and high productivity is met.
Thank you.
All right, that is time. Your next question, Mannings.
So, you propose improving the appraisal system and providing more training. But if workers stay in one post for decades, how do you measure adaptability or growth?
We are not saying that public sector workers can't move from one ministry to another. We're saying that it shouldn't be mandated. Public sector workers should have a choice in whether they want to migrate from, for instance, the Ministry of Health to the Ministry of Tourism. But mandating this would give them no choice. Hence, it would not be practical.
In continuation of this, it also goes against productivity and motivation, because a lot of them would suffer from brain drain and a lot of lack of motivation to actually do the work. Therefore, it's counterproductive.
The opposition says workers will lose focus and motivation, morale, and everything else. But how can stagnation and complacency possibly build efficiency?
Giving someone the autonomy to decide where they work and the level of expertise that they want to work at does not build stagnation or complacency. It allows people to grow at the pace that is okay for them. It allows persons to be as efficient as possible because they know the level that they're okay with working with. Moving persons around without their permission, just telling them to go from one place to another, does not build efficiency. It forces them into a place that they may not be comfortable in. And as much as, yes, complacency is not good, having someone comfortable in their position helps.
Thank you.
That is your 45 seconds. Thank you to both teams for that period of cross-examination. We now move on to the second speech from our team in proposition, Manning School, and we invite their second speaker, Govania James. All right, awesome. Govania approaches the stage and she is ready. The floor is yours.
In the interest of time, I will begin now. Esteemed adjudicators, my teammates, my opponents, a good morning to you. As the second speaker for the proposition, I rise to reaffirm our unmoving stance that public sector workers should be required to rotate across ministries during their careers. My first speaker clearly established that rotation is not just administrative shuffling, it is a national safeguard. She showed that it reduces corruption by breaking entrenched networks of favoritism, injects fresh minds that spark innovation and productivity, and strengthens institutional resilience. So Jamaica can better respond to crisis. I will reinforce these points, respond to anticipated opposition, and present how rotation is not just beneficial, but essential for modern governance. Mr. Speaker, my teammates emphasize that rotation cultivates institutional resilience, and I want to stress that this is not a theoretical claim. In a world facing constant crises such as pandemics, cyber attacks, and natural disasters, a civil service that understands multiple sectors is better able to mobilize rapidly. Jamaica cannot afford a civil service locked into departments. Rotation ensures we have a workforce that is not only trained in their specific roles, but also crisis ready, adaptive, and nationally cohesive. Furthermore, the issue of bureaucratic complacency, where employees stagnate in one department for decades, is a real threat to innovation. We have seen it. By exposing workers to fresh systems and management styles, rotation keeps our public service dynamic, relevant, and especially efficient. The Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, recently approved a US $31.6 million loan to help improve Jamaica's public sector efficiency through better human resources systems and training programs, according to the IDB news release of 2024. But technology and funding alone cannot modernize our government if the people behind the desks are trapped in outdated silos. Rotation would multiply the impact of these reforms by spreading knowledge and skills across ministries. Beyond institutional benefits, rotation empowers the individual civil servant. It creates a career path based on competence. Denied, not connections. A very common saying in Jamaican culture is you can't go nowhere if you don't have links. Too often, promotion in the public sector depends on seniority, popularity, and nepotism rather than skill. When workers rotate, performance becomes measurable across contexts. Those who adapt, lead, and deliver results become visible to the system. This means merit-based advancement replaces the old hierarchy of tenure. It also broadens the workers' professional horizons. A policy analyst who understands both the Ministry of Health and Finance can design more integrated and impactful programs. In short, rotation transforms civil service jobs from routine postings into careers of national leadership. Denied. One of the most overlooked benefits of rotation is how it reduces corruption and nepotism. When an employee stays in one department for years, they form tight-knit networks that can easily become echo chambers or worse, channels for favoritism and the misuse of resources. Rotation disrupts those entrenched relationships and forces accountability. A fresh pair of eyes in each department discourages complacency, exposes inefficiencies, and increases oversight. Countries such as Japan and Singapore have long used staff rotation as an anti-corruption mechanism, ensuring that no single official becomes too comfortable with budgets or contracts. Here in Jamaica, where transparency and public trust are constant challenges,
Point of information.
it could make a tangible difference. In 2024, Jamaica ranked 73rd out of 100.
Point of information.
On that's what them call it, the something.
Michael, continue your speech, please.
73rd out of 180 countries on the Transparency International Corruption Perceptions Index, scoring just 44 out of 100, a score that places us among countries with a serious corruption problem, according to Transparency International via the Gleaner. For a nation investing millions in reform yet still struggling in public distrust, rotation would signal a bold commitment to clean, accountable governance. As a country, we have not had the best track record in transparency, and this reform, Mr. Speaker, could be the answer to rebuilding credibility in our public service. No, the opposition may argue that rotation creates instability or reduces specialization, but that assumes public servants cannot adapt, when in reality they are Jamaicans, a people known worldwide for their resilience, creativity, and versatility. The opposition seeks to limit our nation's public sector workers, diminishing them to a single field. Rotation does not erase expertise, it expands it. A disaster response expert who later joins the Ministry of Finance brings that expertise into budgeting and risk management. That is not instability, that is national cohesion. They may also argue that retraining workers costs time and money, but what is more costly? Training adaptable employees once or keeping outdated systems running inefficiently for decades. Rotation is not a burden, it's an investment in efficiency. The opposition stance is an argument for stagnation, and their argument is complete rubbish. So I implore you, Mr. Speaker, disregard whatever the opposition has said so far and will say. They want Jamaica bound to the same old systems that tear us down. Is this where we want to see Jamaica in the next 5 to 10 years? Stuck in the same slow lanes while the world accelerates? Ladies and gentlemen, the motion is not about shifting desks. It's about reshaping governance. Rotation builds resilience, rewards merit, prevents corruption, and strengthens national unity across ministries. It ensures that when one arm of government falters, another is ready to lift it. Rotation complements, not replaces merit. We're not saying everyone moves blindly. Movements are planned, skill-based, and it's about broadening competence, not disregarding it. We're not saying they're abruptly removed. It's a 4 to 6 year rotation. It is a process that is thought out and planned. We in the proposition believe that a modern, agile, and accountable public sector can only thrive through rotation. We do not merely support this motion, we see it as the next step in building a Jamaica that works smarter, not slower. New officers would be trained, prepped to ensure a safer and smoother integration. We are not proposing something that completely disrupts the governance system of Jamaica. We are proposing something that rebuilds it. We are proposing something that strengthens unity across ministries. I thank you.
And thank you very much. That was Gavania James, a spirited substantive. She asked me not to take into credit anything else that opposition says. I will ignore
Dad,
that
just stop
request.
everything you're doing right now, please. May I talk?
I will ignore that request and invite the second speaker, Mr. Javon Hamilton, to extend the case for side judges.
Please, someone I can start.
Ready when you're ready, Javon.
Starting 3, 2, 1. Good morning, esteemed adjudicators, sharp timekeepers, noteworthy proponents, and valid audience. As the second speaker for the opposition, I proudly rise to reaffirm our stance against this motion that this House would require public sector workers to rotate across ministries and departments during their careers. Our first speaker already showed that the mandatory rotation undermines merit, invites political interference, breaks community trust, and violates workers' rights. My job today is to expose the flaws in the proposition's argument and show the cracks underneath, while advancing new evidence to prove why this motion would make Jamaica's public service weaker, not stronger. The proposition claims that mandatory rotation would make the public sector more efficient and versatile. They suggest that by moving people around, everyone will gain new skills and reduce complacency. It sounds lovely on paper, but Jamaica's public service is not a laboratory experiment, Mr. Speaker. It's a system that relies on expertise, continuity, and institutional memory. The truth is, Jamaica already has a structured framework to build skills and versatility without forcing officers to rotate every 4 to 6 years as the proposition may claim. In 2023, the Public Sector Learning and Development Policy was launched by the Management Institute for National Development, MIND. It mandates 30 hours of professional training every year alongside defined competency frameworks and career pathways for all public officers. Under this policy, public sector workers will benefit from a streamlined and coordinated approach for public service learning and development, which involves systematically mapping learning pathways, building the required competencies, and developing the necessary skill set for a transformed public sector. So if a system already exists to develop skill, versatility, and adaptability, why impose mandatory rotation? Moving officers unnecessarily risks confusion, delays, and efficiency, while the structured policy ensures Jamaica's public service continues to grow in a coordinated and sustainable way. The proposition insists that this policy will build a more flexible and high-performing civil service, but consider this reality. When Favour Williams moved into finance after Nigel Clark left, yes, she brought qualifications, but her first few months required learning, adapting, and even correcting minor missteps, normal when taking over a complex portfolio. This underscores that even highly qualified leaders take time to adjust. Mr. Speaker, now imagine ordinary civil servants moving from health to tourism or from finance to agriculture every few years. Even if a training framework exists, large-scale retraining is expensive and disruptive. The Ministry of Finance's 2023 report shows public sector training costs already exceed 12 billion Jamaican dollars annually. Multiply that across the entire civil service, and mandatory rotation becomes an expensive bottleneck rather than a productivity booster. And yes, the proposition might say that they'll adapt all ministries to do budgeting, administration, etc. But let's be honest, Mr. Speaker, the budget of the Ministry of Health is not the same as the budget of the Ministry of Culture, Entertainment, and Sport. Mr. Speaker, I asked Minister Olivia Babsy-Grange if she could step into health tomorrow and start managing vaccine distribution. Expertise isn't interchangeable like Lego blocks. Mr. Speaker, please allow me to transition into my first substantive, which states that mandatory rotation risks accelerating brain drain. Jamaica already has a major talent problem. According to the globaleconomy.org, Jamaica's Human Flight and Brain Drain Index in 2024 was 9.2 out of 10, placing us among the highest globally. That means skilled people are leaving in droves for better stability and professional growth overseas. Professionals want to grow in their fields. When the system disrespects specialization and carries stability, workers either check out mentally or, in this case, pack up physically. Mr. Speaker, heading to places like Canada, the UK, or the US where their expertise is valued and protected. The result is a public sector hollow out of experience, expertise, and institutional memory. A mandatory rotation policy will only add fuel to that fire, leaving our ministry short-staffed, inefficient, and perpetually creating new recruits who will also leave in frustration. And honestly, who can blame them? If you tell a qualified engineer to fix roads one year and fix and plan dance festivals the next, don't be surprised when he leaves faster than a 7 a.m. JUTC bus. And when those experts do leave, it's not experience that just walked out the door. It's efficiency, morale, and money. Now, Mr. Speaker, this leads me into my second point that forcing rotation doesn't just shuffle desks, it drains money, morale, and motivation. Each transfer requires retraining, relocation, and reorientation, all of which require time and money. The 2024 to 2025 MIND annual report shows that even when implementing 30 hours of training per officer per year takes significant investment. Scaling that up into full cross-ministry rotation would multiply cost and slow productivity during every transition. Mr. Speaker, I'd like you to imagine a dedicated nurse administrator from St. Anne suddenly sent to Kingston because the rotation policy says so. Do you think she's going to be thrilled about leaving her family, her church, and her community connections behind? Hardly. As a result, the morale drops, the turnover rises, and what's left is a workforce going through the motions instead of moving the nation forward. The Jamaican public service doesn't need tired and resentful workers, Mr. Speaker. It needs motivated, empowered ones who feel respected where they currently are. So let's look at the full picture. The proposition wants to fix inefficiency by creating instability, to fight corruption by breeding confusion, and to build leadership by breaking morale. We, the opposition, believe in competence, not chaos. We believe in growth, not forced migration. We support rotation as an opportunity, not a requirement. Members of the House, let us be clear. Rotation and time.
No, continue in the protected time.
Rotation and development are not mutually exclusive. We can build skill, versatility, and leadership without tearing up experience and stability. The opposition supports training and growth through voluntary programs and merit-based movement, Mr. Speaker, not through mandatory rotation that risks pushing our best minds out of the system. Our side agrees that reform is needed, but reform must be smart, strategic, and sustainable, Mr. Speaker, not reckless. The Jamaican public deserves a government that remembers its promises. Thank you.
Time.
Thank you,
That
sir.
is time. We have concluded the substantive argumentation part of this debate. We're going to move into the second period of cross-examination. But I just want to say, Elmarie, Govania, Javan, and Javan, thank you so much for what has been so far a really thrilling debate. What a beautiful way to start the morning. So let's dive in. You can see the smile on my face. I'm happy. Let's dive in, therefore, into the second period of cross-examination. And we invite Team St. George's to pose questions to Team Mannings.
Okay, Team Mannings, wouldn't you say that moving the same old, outdated persons around in different departments would just be spreading the cancer of complacency and stagnation throughout every organization?
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't bring around stagnation. When you move one worker from one department to another, as we said, we're going to do departmental training. So it isn't that you're here and you're stagnant in the position that you are in, and then you just go to another position and bring that same work energy. No, you're going to go to a training process, and then by the training process, you can be able to be motivated and be able to efficiently perform your duties.
All right.
Okay, if a government can politically influence transfers under a rotation system, how does a mandatory rotation prevent corruption rather than giving politicians more flexibility to our loyalists or punish dissented loyal people loyal to the public sector itself?
Okay, so familiarity breeds corruption. This is not a matter of a government official moving around his 1 and 2 friends. No, this is a matter of the entire scope of the country. The there'll be policies implemented to ensure that corruption does not overtake the rotational transfers. It is much easier for corruption to be spotted if the same person is moving around and causing the same problems in different sectors.
And if something is made mandatory, there has to be laws governing this mandatory thing happening. So there has to be rules and regulations and guidelines in which that they operate in and this movement operates in.
Yes. And also the laws in Jamaica, do you consider it as forcing? No, it is just something that is mandated to do, not forcing.
Just like taxes.
Yes.
Okay, good morning, Mannings. Jamaica already struggles with understaffed ministries. Wouldn't constant rotation worsen that issue that we currently face?
No, constant rotation would not. What is it?
Understaffed ministries.
Yes. Say.
So, repeat, you said understaffed the ministries, right?
That's correct.
Yes. So rotating wouldn't do that. Rotating would actually remember that moving from one department to another, when there are other departments moving to that department and that department moving from another department. So it wouldn't be that all workers from one department will all just be transferring to another one. No, there will be expertise being shared, information being relayed to the other person. And by doing that, it can show that, yes, it can show that the information is being spread and expertise is being shown.
All right, thank you for that first half of cross-examination. We now invite the Manning School to pose questions to St. George's.
If you believe rotation is too expensive, how do you justify the cost of stagnation in loss of productivity, poor service delivery, and corruption when
Can you repeat that question again, please?
You kind of broke up for a second.
if you believe rotation is too expensive, how do you justify the cost of stagnation in lost productivity, poor service delivery, and corruption when failing to rotate public servants already cost Jamaica millions every year?
Okay, so rotating your public servants in different departments doesn't miraculously cut out all bad things that happen in the society. Corruption is still going to be present in different institutions, and efficiency is going to be cut short when people have to take time, even if it takes a year to learn the ins and outs of the position you're put in, it's going to damage efficiency. So for that year, the efficiency in that organization and that position are going to be at an all-time low. As thus, it's going to limit the productivity and quality output that that person can put forward.
This also brings to us the question, who exactly is in charge of rotating these people across these ministries? Because who's to say that these people aren't the same one that is breeding the corruption or fueling the corruption, the fire of corruption?
And therefore bringing to our statement that we would actually like to emphasize on annual recitments.
And that is time, indeed.
If public servants remain in the same ministry for decades, forming entrenched networks and relationships, how does your approach prevent favoritism, collusion, and the misuse of public funds? Are you saying it's acceptable for millions of dollars to go unaccounted for because your system allows stagnation instead of introducing mandatory rotation to ensure accountability?
Mr. Speaker and member of the proposition, you may argue that close connections to the community breed corruption. However, to assume that familiarity automatically leads to wrongdoing is misleading. In reality, officers or public sector workers who know their communities are more accountable. Residents are able to notice missteps, report abuses, and demand transparency, and therefore it will not lead to that situation.
And as I said before, who exactly is administering these people across these ministries? Because who's to say that the people who are administering these public sector workers, who's to say that they aren't the same one facilitating this corruption by bringing it to another ministry?
All right, your third and final question, Manning School.
So, just to confirm, your side believes the system should remain as it is, right?
No, that is not what we stated. What
That's not what we stated.
what our stance on the situation was is that annual checks are to be done in each and every organization to ensure that corruption and stagnation are not running rampant in Jamaica's society. So we're not stating that everything is running perfectly in our organizations and our public sector. Currently, we want to streamline all institutions and ensure that all institutions can be run as best as possible. And we're not just moving people and hoping that moving persons around will help and be a miracle cure.
Also, we are not against the idea of rotation. We are against the idea of mandated rotation, that we're forcing these individuals to rotate. Also, as again, merit and qualification is a good part of the public sector. Therefore, we're not saying that qualifications are moving ahead is a problem.
Speaker.
All right, thank you very much for the second period of class examination. Reply speakers, you have a important task coming up. You need to convince the judges based on everything that has been said, all the contentions in the cross examination, all the rebuttals. You need to convince the judges why your team has won. And so, as a little piece of charity, we're going to give you an additional minute to put the finishing touches on those reply speeches, after which we will invite the opposition reply speaker, who will be followed finally by the proposition reply speaker to conclude the debate. And that 1 minute starts now.
So the minute has been up.
Our timekeeper has spoken. It is now time to hear from our reply speakers. We invite the reply speaker from St. George's College, and Kayla Wright to conclude this debate for Team Opposition.
I'll begin in 3, 2, 1. Honorable Chairperson, esteemed judges, worthy opposition, and members of the audience. As the third speaker for the opposition, my duty is clear: to defend our already strong case, refute the lacking arguments of the proposition, and reinforce why this motion must fall. The proposition are trying to blind us and skewer this debate with fallacies. My opponents, I won't say you are wrong. I will, however, say that you are ill-informed and lacking in adequate research. The proposition's ideas are a blunt instrument being used in a situation that needs a surgeon's scalpel. Our policies are that scalpel. The proposition wants us to believe that rotating public servants will build versatility and reduce stagnation. But in reality, this policy opens the door to corruption, a dangerous brain drain, and erodes community trust in our public institutions. We have all heard of dipping our hands in the cookie jar. If the proposition were to get their way, public servants would be able to dip their hands in every cookie jar. My opposition argues rotation reduces corruption by preventing overfamiliarity with one department. But this logic collapses under the slightest scrutiny. When workers are constantly moved, they lose long-term accountability. Officials who know they'll soon be transferred have little incentive to see through reforms or maintain integrity. They can sign off on questionable deals confident someone else will clean up the mess later. Moreover, constant rotation expands informal networks across departments, making it easier, not harder, for corrupt deals to be spread through multiple ministries. Instead of containing corruption, we would be systemizing it. I want to now talk about expertise, something the proposition seems to have forgotten. Familiarity and similarities don't produce expertise. The public sector thrives on specialization. Even if someone is familiar with a sector or works in a similar sector, it doesn't mean they can seamlessly move to that sector and yield high quality results. A physiotherapist performing my heart surgery would not fill me with confidence. Forcing rotation strips away deep institutional knowledge that takes years to build. Talented workers who value mastery will simply leave for the private sector or international organizations, where their expertise is appreciated. This policy therefore accelerates brain drain, leaving us with generalists who know a little about everything and a lot about nothing, just like our misled proposition. A revolving door of bureaucracy isn't a dynamic workforce, it is a confused one. Finally, we must consider the public's perception. Citizens rely on stable, trusted relationships with their local public servants. The teacher who knows the families, the social worker who understands local issues, the officer who builds community safety over years. Frequent rotation breaks those relationships, making government appear distant and unresponsive. When people no longer recognize the faces in public service, trust evaporates. And when trust is gone, so does cooperation with government programs and policies. In summary, honorable judges, this policy may sound modern and efficient, but in practice, it is chaotic, corrupting, and counterproductive. We on the opposition bench stand firmly for continuity, expertise, and community trust, values that strengthen public service. For these reasons, the opposition strongly believes that this motion to require public sector workers to rotate across ministries and departments during their careers is ill-advised and should be rejected. The opposition rests. Thank you.
And thank you very much. That was Nkela Wright closing out the debate for Team Georges. At this point in time, to do similarly for the Manning School, we invite their reply speaker, Brandon Reed.
Good. Mr. Speaker, esteemed judges, worthy opponents, and my fellow Jamaicans, a pleasant morning. Mr. Speaker, what we've heard from the opposition today is not a vision of progress. It is a defense of comfort. They've spent their time protecting the old ways, while we, the proposition, are fighting for a Jamaica that moves forward. Our first speaker laid the foundation, showing how rotation reduces corruption, fuels innovation, and strengthens crisis response. Our second speaker proved that rotation empowers workers, builds merit-based advancement, and strengthens the backbone of Jamaica's civil service. Now, as the third speaker, I'll show you that the opposition stance is not only weak, it is self-defeating. The opposition says that mandatory rotation ignores merit. But Mr. Speaker, our model doesn't replace merit, it rewards it. Rotation would be structured, strategic, and based on skills and compatibility. We're not transferring random people. We're creating a 4 to 6 year cycle where qualified workers move into ministries where their expertise can be grown and shared. That's not ignoring merit, that's multiplying it. They also claim that workers may end up in roles they are unprepared for. But that's exactly why the proposition's model includes training, mentorship, and proper handover periods before any rotation. We're not tossing people around, we're developing them. Each 4 to 6 year rotation gives employees enough time to master their roles, contribute meaningfully, and then take their strengthened skills to another department that needs them. They claim that rotation could increase corruption, but corruption grows in familiarity, not in mobility. When someone stays in one post for 10 or maybe more than 5 years, at least, networks of influence takes root, oversight fades, accountability weakens. Rotation breaks those entrenched circles, and when movement happens every 4 to 6 years under transparent systems, corruption becomes harder, not easier. I asked the opposition how they would measure adaptability and growth without rotation. They couldn't answer. Instead, they just said, we'll just train them more. But Mr. Speaker, training someone in the same post for decades doesn't test adaptability. It reinforces stagnation. You don't teach flexibility by keeping people still. That's like trying to teach swimming without ever touching the water. Rotation trains, tests, and informs our civil service. Their solution? More of the same old paperwork, the same old system that has been going on without change and causing corruption that we have today. They said rotation breaks bonds with the public and adds mental strain. But Mr. Speaker, the bond of a public servant is with the people of Jamaica, not one small office. Rotation every 4 to 6 years allows workers to serve different communities and spread the best practices across ministries. That builds connections, not distance. And that's for the mental toll. Movement every few years actually prevents burnout. It keeps workers motivated, curious, and proud of their own growth. The truth is, people don't get tired from change. They get tired from stagnation. So, Mr. Speaker, the opposition has no credible alternative. They defend stagnation and call it stability. They reject reform and call it caution. Their solution, appraisals and extra training, has been tried for decades, and look where we are. Low efficiency, low trust, and high corruption. Rotation builds the future Jamaica deserves, one where corruption weakens, merit rises, innovation spreads, and the public service truly serves the people. To stagnate is to decay. To rotate every 4 to 6 years is to grow. Mr. Rotation. Mr. Speaker, rotation is not disruption. It is the direction of development. We, the proposition, proudly rest our case. Thank you.
And thank you very much. That was the final speaker of the debate, Mr. Brandon Reed. The judges have a hard time ahead of us. We're going to be dismissing ourselves and heading into a different room so that we can deliberate and return to you shortly with the results.
Excuse me, for confirmation, is the judges still deliberating?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Okay, no problem.
All right, the judges are back. The judges are back. We have the decision, and we know which school will be moving on to round two, at least securing a guaranteed slot in round two of this, the JCSA High School Debate Competition 2024. I see Manning School on the call with us. Wonderful. And let's see our team members from Georges as well. Listen, this was I believe the best debate we've had in this competition so far. For me, I believe it was the best one. It is the best one I've judged so far. And I suspect it's the best one we've had in the competition so far. This was spectacular. The motion before us, this house would require public sector workers to rotate across ministries departments during their careers. We understood from Team Manning School a really detailed policy, at least detailed enough to circumvent some of the possibly pre-prepared contentions that team opposition was having. They told us that this is something that is going to be happening every 4 to 6 years. They told us that it is specifically going to focus on administrative roles and not specialized roles, right? And these two pieces of policy were super critical because it gave the judges estimate that 4 to 6 years, enough period of time for the transition to happen and for the awkwardness to happen and for them to really soak it in and get real value, right? And the idea of not bringing it to specialized individuals was also a really clever part of the policy. A general administrative roles, not specialized individuals. The contentions that came out from St. George's about questioning, we don't want our engineers and our nurses to be moving around the place, or we don't want our heart surgeons doing brain surgery. They kind of didn't really stand because of what existed already in the policy. So we thought that was a really clever policy coming out from Manning School. We now get this idea, therefore, that two distinct ideas, kind of 2 to 3 distinct ideas coming out from Manning School. 1, you get innovation. 2, you get stagnation. And 3, you break up on corruption. So how did the judges weigh this? We thought the idea of innovation was really interesting, right? Again, we wanted to understand just a little bit more. And this is to say, at this level now, we're going not just to be good debaters, we're giving criticism on how you can be great debaters, right? So when we hear innovation, we wanted to understand this a little bit more mechanization on how moving these individuals around gives us innovation. We got that. We got enough to make you good debaters. What would have made you great debaters is explaining that perhaps when these individuals are in these particular roles, like how is it that having a fresh eye makes them want to change? Give me some examples of that. Give me some statistics. Not sufficient at this level of debating to just tell them, well, they have a fresh eye to the problem so they can innovate. Mechanize that out for us, right? But nevertheless, we understood that and we appreciate that. Now, that was undermined by St. George's College. St. George's College tells us that you won't get innovation because their contention, a really interesting part of their claim, is that what you're going to get is a super detailed, specialized knowledge that these individuals have being rooted up, taken out from these ministries that they currently exist in, and be put into an unfamiliar environment, an environment that they're not fully appreciative of, being forced to adapt, and that's fundamentally, that's just not how humans are. And so we're not necessarily going to get that greater level of innovation. And so we thought that argument was undermined indeed by St. George's. Then we get the idea of stagnation. He told us that, again, you spend a period of time in a particular role, you're going to become stagnant. Again, the question is deeper mechanization. What about sitting in a role in one ministry for so long makes you stagnant? Is it that you're used to how things occur? You know, kind of mechanize that out a little bit more. But we did buy the idea, and we think the argument stood in the debate, despite St. George's contention about stagnation, despite them saying that you won't necessarily get stagnation because we can train them. And I think Brandon did a really good job of saying, yeah, you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. How is it that we're actually going to effect that kind of change? So again, 2 really important arguments in the debate, undermined by St. George's. Now, on the question of corruption, the judges really couldn't split the middle. So Team Manning's tells us that you get greater corruption in status quo when individuals are seated in one position without being rotated because they get a sense of familiarity. And that familiarity and just tenure in a particular role makes one more susceptible to corruption. But St. George's tells us, no, you actually get greater corruption where the individuals, the actors who are instrumental in moving around these people to different departments and different ministries can build up their allies and use their allies and put their allies in these particular ministries so that they can have influence in a greater sphere than they currently did. They also told us how they can use this particular thing as a tool and a mechanism to punish and to reward. Punish your enemies and reward your allies by putting them in positions that are good or are bad. And we didn't understand, we didn't appreciate from your policy who is going to be doing this changing around. So when St. George's comes and says, well, the people who's going to be doing this changing around are these people in influence who have power, who have the ability to do some sort of corruption. It's just like, we wanted to see as better contestation there. Now, running into it real quick. Contentions that came out from St. George's, it is going to be expensive and unbelievably administrative intensive and bureaucratic. Now, the question is, we buy that it is going to be, should we do it nonetheless? And they tell us no. They tell us we shouldn't do it because you're going to simply break the public trust when it is that you have individuals who people can relate to moving up about all over the place, and that's bad. We heard a contention from Brandon that public trust isn't necessarily, to our communities, to the wider public on a whole. We wanted to understand a little bit more how the distinction between the two. I think that's a really interesting idea. How is the distinction between the two going to stop and solve this problem of breaking up trust? And a really important argument in the debate that we think wasn't sufficiently contended with, posited by Georges, the brain drain, these really talented, super intelligent, experienced people now leaving the ministries. They're going to be going all over the place. You're not going to get that kind of concentration of talent. In fact, what you get is a general watering down everywhere of expertise. So, like I said, it was a brilliant debate. I had a whole lot of fun. But at the end of it all, we had to crown a winner. And after what you can imagine, intense deliberation, the judges concluded that the team that won this match and the team that will be moving on to round 2 of this competition is the team in opposition, St. George's College. The team in opposition.
Thank you so much, sir. Greatly
We
appreciate it.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, St. George's, and I can't say it enough. Valiant effort. Well played, Team Mannings. The scores ending this match: Mannings School on 272 points to St. George's, leaderboard topping 280 points. Well done, Team St. George's. As of this match, match 7, you are, I believe, atop the leaderboard. Very well done. The best debater from this match comes to us from the winning team, and that is the second speaker, Javon Hamilton. We thought your rebuttals, your analysis cinched the debate. Very well done. We can't say it enough. We absolutely needed those rebuttals, Javon, to what was, quite frankly, a brilliant setup of the debate by Manning.
Thank you so much, sir.
Congratulations. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are 5 minutes up to our next match. I want to say this competition has wild cards. So, Mannings, while you may not have guaranteed an automatic advancement, you probably want to be watching the rest of the debates in hopeful anticipation, because there's a possibility that you will be selected as wild cards. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to both teams, and we wish you the best of luck in round 2 and in your future endeavors.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Congratulations, St. George's.
Thank you,
Thank
man.
you so much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
You guys played amazingly. Wonderful competition.
Thank you.
All right. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we move expeditiously into the next match in this series, where we will see Excelsior High School play off against Wilmer's Boys. The motion, simple, complex nonetheless. Simple in wording, complex in ideas. This house would privatize prisons. This house would privatize prisons. I believe we have both teams on the call with us. Wilmer's Boys School, can I see you, please? Excelsior High School, similarly.
Blessings, are you hearing us? Excelsior.
Yes, I'm hearing, not seeing, but your audio sounds very clear and robust.
All right, let us turn on. Oh, them.
All right, Team Wilmer's. Right.
Hello, we are in fact here.
I see Excelsior. I see Wilmer's. Wonderful. All right. So this is, I believe, and I think I am correct, match number 8 in the JCSA High School Debate Competition 2025. And boy, do we have a match in front of us. Excelsior High School versus Wilmer's Boys School. Neither of these teams are teams to be trifled with. Excelsior High School, one of the most consistent debating institutions in Jamaica, going up against Wilmer's Boys School, one of the best debating institutions in Jamaica. I'm checking my notes because I think, and I want to be completely accurate when I make this assessment. Right, so both teams were in the competition last year. No, actually, Wilmer's Boys School, first time entrance into the JCSA High School Debate Competition. This is your first year. Excelsior High School, this is not your first time. You advanced all the way into round 2. I wonder if you will be able to replicate that success, or if you will be defeated by first-time entrants Wilmer's Boys School.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Am I being heard?
Greetings, sir. Yes.
Good morning.
Good, good, good. So we have Wolmer's Boys School versus what's the other team that's here? Excelsior. Excelsior High School. All right, debating the motion this House would privatize prisons. All right. So I'm going to ask you, both teams, to drop in the chat your speakers in the order in which you'll be presenting. And I'm going to ask Jerome. Jerome, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So if you could just capture the names as the students drop their names in the chat. Give me a second, please.
So, Akif Nugent, Japeth Dwyer, and Jadine Levy. You guys are from Excelsior, right?
Yes, yeah. So just editing.
Say that again. Are you guys hearing me?
I think they just said they've just edited it, Jerome.
Okay, see.
Yeah, it's the same speakers. I just added that it was from Excelsior High School.
And Wolmers, have you shared your names in the order in which you'll be presenting? Wolmers? Checking, is Wolmers with us? Excelsior? Jerome, are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay. Again, checking to see if Wolmers is with us. Is Excelsior with us?
Yes, sir.
Here.
Okay, so Excelsior is with you, is with us. Wolmers, are you here?
In fact, here.
Sorry, repeat that, please.
Sure.
Your
Apologies for the interruption.
Wolmers, your audio is a little challenged. So I'm not sure if there's something you can do to resolve that.
Go again, Wilma. Speak again, please. Is it still challenged?
Keep speaking.
Are you hearing clearly?
You're not coming across clearly. It's breaking up.
Hold on. One moment.
No problem. Oh, you're clear just now. Give me a full sentence. Introduce.
First opposition. My name is Apollos Joyles, and I'm first opposition speaker.
All right, good. You're coming across clearly. Are you all together, Wolmers?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And what about Excelsior? Are you all together?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Jerome, do you have the names of the speakers on both teams?
I'm waiting for Wilmers.
Wilmaz, we're waiting for your list of speakers in the order in which you'll be presenting.
Hi, we want to clarify that our microphone quality is still decent while our camera's on.
Yes, we are hearing you. We are though waiting on the list of speakers from your team, Wilmaz.
It's in the chat. It's in the chat.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so we are hearing you, Wilmaz, and I imagine seeing you. And may we do an audio check with Excelsior again? Excelsior?
Yes, sir.
Good, excellent. All right, so I think we're all good to go. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this match in round one of the JCSA High Schools Debate Competition for 2025. My name is Jermaine Barrett, and I'll be the chair adjudicator for this match. I'll invite my colleague adjudicators to unmute and to introduce themselves.
So I'll go first. My name is Jerome Reynolds. I'll be one of the judges helping conclusion for this match.
All right, thank you very much, Jerome. And Shawnake?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Shanaki Willis, and I'll be co-adjudicating for this match.
Indeed. Thank you so very much. All right. So you've been introduced to our judges, and now to reveal the motion for this debate. The motion reads, this house would privatize prisons. This house would privatize prisons. That's our motion. The two teams gathered here to contest this debate. We have from Excelsior High School, that team, and of course, that team is going up against Wolmer's Boys School. So Excelsior, you're proposing, and Wolmer's Boys School, you are opposing.
Excuse me, Mr. Barrett.
Go ahead.
I believe that Excelsior got prioritized as the motion.
Sorry, prioritize. So, right. So do you mind sharing the motion as you have it?
We have this house would prioritize prisons.
Prioritize prisons? No, it is privatize, I believe. Wolmer's?
I'd like it's actually privatized.
Just confirming, it's
yeah, just
privatized,
it's
right?
privatized prisons, not prioritize.
Excelsior?
Yes, sir.
The motion that would have been distributed to you reads, this house would privatize prisons. Is that not what you have?
No, that's not what we prepared for.
Wow. All right, give me a second. Let me just check on something and get back to you.